Hello guys, I wanted to make a quick video today as kind of a beginner tutorial on how to mix in Ableton Live when you are in a performance setting, you're live, you're playing, you're recording tracks, you're looping, you're stacking tracks on top of each other, and how you can keep those all mixed to the correct level and also not have every single track peaking and clipping and overloading the master track. We're gonna start with a somewhat blank project. So here's what it looks like. This is not exactly what Ableton looks like when you first open it. So I do have another video on that. If you don't know how to get to this point where you have tracks set up here, like as you can see, I have several tracks laid out, ready to go. I have a violin loop, a microphone loop, guitar, and piano, just as some example tracks. So if you don't know how to get to this point, go onto my channel. I have a playlist on there with some tutorials on how to set up tracks to start looping. Let's say you're in a blank project here and you have a loop here, you have a loop here, you have a loop here, and here. They're all playing together, but down here you can see the volume levels are just absolutely maxed on every single track. And then you go over to your master track and it is overloaded. It's red down here. The meter is red and it sounds terrible. So that's the issue that we're dealing with that we want to fix, right? Before we get started, I will say a lot of this stuff is based on just your ear, using your ear to figure out what will sound the best, and also some experience of just playing around with things. So I'm hoping that I can kind of get you started with that with this video. And if you are going to be mixing and recording and stuff, you obviously want a good pair of headphones so that you can hear all those different frequencies. So if you're going to be mixing bass and also vocals, those are two ends of the spectrum. Your bass is going to be in those low end frequencies and your vocals are most likely, you're going to want them in the higher end frequencies so that there's room for both of them, right? So you want a pair of headphones that are going to give you that full spectrum and give you a really true sound. I am actually using some in-ear monitors today. I've been using these on my stream a lot lately just because it gives me, in the hot summer months, I don't really want to wear big hot headphones. And also it just is nicer because then I don't have distracting gigantic headphones on my head during my stream. So if you want to check these out, these are, I have a link in the description. They're from Mackie. They're called the MP460s, and they did send me these headphones, and I have an affiliate code. So if you would like to support the channel and you want to check them out as well, check out the description and go to that link. So if you're looking for a good pair of in-ears, these I do recommend. So, anyways, get a good pair of headphones. When you're looping and you have a lot of different tracks playing at the same time, you have to take into consideration the idea of headroom. That gives all these tracks, as they start piling up with music, they all are going to add on top of each other to become louder and louder and louder. So I usually start my performances making sure that my meters here down at the bottom are all like 75% of the way up. You don't want them all the way at 0. I usually keep them at like the -12 or like the 12 decibel area, just as a general area to start, where that gives you that extra space for them to stack on top of each other and not overload the master track. So that's step one. I would definitely make sure that those are all balanced. And once you have them there, of course, if you're using a MIDI controller like I do, I use a couple different MIDI controllers, you can control these on the fly. So if you're like, okay, I want that violin loop to be a little bit louder, I'm gonna pull it up a little bit more. And I will give you a full loop example. I just wanna run through some of these things initially and then we'll go through it. So another thing you can do when it comes to muddiness and getting everything to sound really balanced is you can play around with panning. So you can go and turn you can see it on this, and you can also do this with your MIDI controllers. You can turn these to the left headphone or the right headphone. And so typically I don't like to go anywhere over about, 7, 8 to the right or to the left, because at that point then you get too much on one side of your headphones. And just something to consider, there are people, that might be watching you that don't have balanced hearing in both ears or something like that. So you don't want to lose the sound out of one headphone completely. So I would definitely keep it somewhere around the 6, 7, 8 to 10. I would say probably max of 10 on each side, just to keep it to where you can still hear it a little bit on the other side too. So it's not going to sound super boom heavy on one side, you know. So you can do that a lot, and that will help kind of keep things balanced. I usually keep the bass and the drums centered, and then probably like my chords, like if I just have some chords on piano, I would keep those maybe centered. But then if I have some tracks playing like vocal harmonies or top, just like little licks and things like guitar or violin or something, and you want a little melody to kind of sparkle on the top, I would pan those probably left or right a little bit, and just make sure you're kind of balancing them. If you send one to the left, send the other one to the right, just so I kind of envision it actually like if I'm standing on stage, you'd have your bass player off to the left and then maybe your violin player off to the right, just something like that. And you're like, okay, so, and then your drummer is going to be in the middle. So if your bass is over there, maybe knock that one off to the left a little bit, and then your guitarist or your violinist or something, it's going to be on the right, so knock that off to the right just a little bit. And again, that comes down to just using your ears and what sounds good to you. And it takes experience and practice as well. So another thing that I want to mention before we actually do a loop to explain everything. So as you can see, I just went into my master track here, and I have a limiter. These other ones, those are just compressors basically, just to give everything a nice even volume across the board. So those are all just kind of personal preference stuff, so I'm not going to go into that. But I would suggest using a limiter plugin, and Ableton has a free one. That's what I'm using, is just the Ableton stock limiter plugin, which, or you could buy one if you want to. I would set the ceiling to somewhere around 10, or maybe even like 30. If I can get to it, I don't know, whatever. I don't want to type it, but you get the idea. You can maybe 30 or 10 or something like that. So that keeps your volume ceiling so that none of those tracks are ever going to like get above it and then peak and sound terrible. So it kind of keeps everything balanced, almost similar to a compressor, but it just keeps it from going overboard. And then as for the other side of that spectrum, if you are dealing with your volume being too quiet, you can go and you can set your gain, bump it up like 2 or 3 decibels, and see if that helps give your volume. See how my microphone's louder now? You can use that to get a little bit higher overall project. When I say project, like performance, all of your tracks are looping and stuff. You can turn that volume up a little bit to get a nice boost in your volume as well. So that's basically, you know, a brief overview of how a limiter works, but that will help you a lot with keeping your tracks from peaking. So definitely put a limiter on your master track. Okay, so now let's go in here. Let's actually do an example of a loop, what I'm talking about, so I can show you how I would deal with these tracks if I was really performing. So let's say I don't have any drums here. I kind of want to set a drum. We'll go in here and then we'll insert MIDI track if we're gonna add some drums. And then we'll just go and drag and drop one of these drum racks on here. I just clicked the 505 core kit, whatever. Here they are. So I'm just using my keyboard. You can use that, or you could use a MIDI controller. I have a push controller over here on the side, so that's how, or you could obviously just click it with your mouse if you want to. So there's our drums. So now I can show you a full example. So I'm going to lower the volume, like I was saying before, about 75% away up that meter. And then let's just make a loop, and I'll just kind of explain things, you know, as I go. Whatever. So we'll hit play. Got my click track going. Okay, we got a kick drum there. We'll just make it super simple, just for the sake of time. There it is. We'll just do a quarter note kick. I always like to turn up the reverb a little bit. I have my reverb on send A. So I just add a little bit of reverb just to make it kind of feel like it belongs with the rest of my instruments in the room. And then let's say we want some piano. I don't know. I just made that up, whatever. So that's just piano. And then let's say maybe we want to have another instrument here. We could even just duplicate this track. Now we have 2 pianos, delete that track. And then let's say we want a melody on top. Okay, so that's a good example there of like when you'd have a melody on top. I'm gonna move myself. You have your melody on top. Maybe you want to pan that off to the side just a little bit so that it doesn't sound too overwhelming, right? So we'll just kind of pan that off 6 to the right. And then we could add, let me add some guitar just for the sake of example. What did I even play? B flat, G. Okay, so here now you can hear we have a lot of tracks going, but we're not peaking because all of these tracks are turned down. So as they kind of stack on top of each other, we're now getting up to, you know, 2.5 decibels or whatever here. So we got good volume, but we're not peaking. So if I were to go and turn these all up, the limiter is helping. The limiter is keeping it from absolutely destroying the master track. And I'll show you what that looks like as well. So if we're over here, see how the limiter is going off here? It's keeping it from peaking. So now I'm going to turn down some of my tracks, and it completely changes the sound of your song too if you kind of mix it and play around with it. So I usually start low and start adding it in until I can hear it. So there you go. And then you can pan that off to the left a little bit so you get a good balance between, let's go about the same as what we had. There's 6 left, 6 right. So that gives you a really nice balance between the two. So let's say you want to actually add a little volume because now we have them all down. We have plenty of headroom. We can go and boost up our gain on the on that master track. And now we're going to have really significant volume increase to make it so that it sounds really nice in your video or your performance or whatever you're doing. But for the most part, you could just keep that at 0. So that at that point, you can just start playing around with it. So here we are. I'm just going to turn that down so you can hear me talk better. But basically, you can just use your MIDI controllers. I would just keep each track around 12 decibels, 75% of the way up from the top, and just make sure that they're all not too loud. Don't have them all cranked up to 0, and make sure on your master track that you have a limiter because that's going to help a lot with keeping it from peaking. Because if we were to turn off that limiter, let me show you what that would look like. Let's put it back to where we had it before. Oops, I clicked the wrong button. See, now we're peaking. And then if we put our limiter back on, it's still peaking, but it's better. And then go in and start adjusting, but just don't let your tracks get over that 12 decibel as a general rule of thumb. Just kind of keep them all, you know, somewhere in that range, and then bam. Now you have a really nice sounding mix, and you can do that on the fly, but I would just save your project. Let me turn it down so you can hear me. I would just save your project. I had to turn off my metronome because it was clicking in my ears. I would just save your Ableton project like your loop setup. That's what I do. This is my looping project. And then I save it with all those volume levels set before I go in to actually do my live streams and my performances and stuff so that they're all ready to go. And of course, if you are going to be playing in live settings, you're going to have to adjust things for each different setting that you're in. But if you're at home playing live on social media or videos or something like that, then you can just set it and forget it, basically. So I hope that helps you. As far as a beginner tutorial, I'm gonna leave it at that. If you would like me to further elaborate on anything, please leave me a comment. Let me know what you would like to see. And that's basically how I do it for all of my live streams. I just go and I adjust them on the fly and just kind of keep it in my mind. I want them to be about 75% of the way up and then have that master track set up with the limiter. And that helps a ton. So I hope you found this tutorial helpful, and if there's anything else you would like to know, please leave me a comment and I will try my best to answer your question. I always go in and look at people's comments and try to respond to people and help if you are still having trouble with something. And also, if you are interested in the Mackie headphones, check the link in my description. They're the MP460s for the in-ear monitors that I've been using that I really, really like. This is not a paid partnership by them. They did send me some in-ear monitors because I'm a partner and I'm an affiliate with Mackie, but I just have an affiliate link if you would like to use it and support the channel. It's greatly appreciated. And if you enjoyed the video, of course, subscribe and leave a like for me. And so that other people can find this if you found it useful. And with that, I will see you in the next video. Good luck with your looping. I hope it works for you, and I wish you all the success. Thank you so much.